Here at the Appraisal Buzz, we've had the absolute pleasure of working with some of the best people in the appraisal industry. And Jim Morrison, our producer, came up with the idea at the end of last year to start a new thing called the Buzzy Awards. And it's a way to recognize those excellent people in this business that do really good work. We took the nominations in, we put together a polling system, asked appraisal industry people to vote on the Buzzy Awards. We'll be rolling out the Buzzy Awards over the next year between now and Valuation Expo. The first one we're going to announce is the Appraiser of the Year. Do you want to know who the appraisal industry selected as the Appraiser of the Year? Join us after the break and find out.
You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast with your host, Hal Humphreys.
Welcome, everyone, to today's Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison. I'm going to bring in our host, Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you?
Jim, I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm very excited today. We have an awesome episode. We are announcing our 2025 Buzzy Award winner for Appraiser of the Year. Let me bring her in, Kathy Harper. Hey, Kathy.
Hi, you guys. How are you today?
Kathy Harper, Appraiser of the Year. That is so exciting. I'm so happy for you. I think this is well deserved. You and we've had a long-term friendship, I would like to say. We haven't always seen 100% eye to eye on things, but I've always had a great deal of respect for you and the work you do with the NAA and the work you do with the ATA. The fact that you give so much back to the community, but I'm so happy to have you be the inaugural Appraiser of the Year for the Buzzy Awards.
Thank you, Hal. I think if we all agreed on everything, it'd be really boring, right? Like we have to engage our own thoughts and opinions, and I think that we all get smarter when we can discuss those things.
Absolutely.
See different views, and then that will sometimes affect, our perception too. So, that's kind of why I am out loud, because I learned from, this is what I think, and this is what you think, and where do we figure out, the best answer. So anyway, but I'm really flattered to have this award. I do a few things, yes, to try to help appraisers. So it's nice to know that people are appreciative of that and willing to vote for me for this award.
I think we can clearly say we see you. Well, let's do this, Kathy. For the listeners out there that aren't familiar with you, just get started by telling our audience a little bit about yourself, how you got into the appraisal business, and what are you currently working on?
So this is a second career for me. I was aviation electronics for the Navy. I did active duty, and I also worked for a contractor. So that was my first career, as I was a nerd in that world of electronics. And then I lost that position because I had an injury that I couldn't lift enough as fast as they wanted me to. So I was without a job and looking through ads. I had a great friend that was a broker, and she said, "You should be an appraiser." And I think she knew my math. I think she knew that that's where my brain goes, is I like the analysis and problem solving and whatnot. So I really lucked out. Most people don't even know what an appraiser is, right? So they don't know to look for that job. So I lucked out that my sponsor, unfortunately for her, had broken her neck, and she was healing, but she couldn't drive yet. So she needed someone to drive her. Part of my interview process was, how big is your car? Can you fit a ladder in it? And so I could, and then I got the job. So yes, it was, it's been quite a blessing, honestly, because I do not have a college degree. Just wasn't in a position at any time to figure out how to get that. So anyway, so that's how I became a trainee, and then I trained with her for about 2 years and got my license, and here we are, 22 years later.
22 years later. Now, I want to take a break in a second, but before we do that, If somebody were to come to you today and say, Kathy, my daughter is thinking about getting into the real estate appraisal business, would you encourage them to do that?
It's been a great profession for me. I think there are always some unknowns coming up, and so that can be scary, although that can be said probably for everything we do, right? You're certainly not gonna regret the knowledge you gain becoming an appraiser. So if you're interested in that sort of world, then once you become an appraiser, if that doesn't work out in one aspect, it very well may work out in another.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, let's do this. I'm going to take a real quick break, and we'll hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense. Explore our exclusive appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm your host, Hal Humphreys. I'm joined today by Kathy Harper down in South Texas. Kathy, we said before the break, you were elected Appraiser of the Year for the Buzzy Awards this year. I'm so excited about that. I have a notion, just between you and me and the fence post, that one of the reasons you were voted Appraiser of the Year might have something to do with your participation in the NAA and appraisal organizations. You obviously have had a big impact on people you interact with, through those organizations. What are some of the benefits of joining a professional organization?
How I think that we are all missing out if we don't work together in these organizations. I became a member in the Association of Texas Appraisers maybe 10 years ago. And then I served on the board of directors for 2 terms. And it really opens your eyes to what else is out there in this world. Not only to get better at what we do, but to get the support systems that we need. As you said earlier, we sometimes disagree. Well, if I hadn't met you, I wouldn't be able to have those conversations and get better at what I do, right? So you make me better. Everyone that I get in contact with does. On the Association of Texas Appraisers group, I chaired the program committee, which is all about education. And that's where we've seen each other too, is we bring in great educators. We want people to learn to get better because they get to, like you say, that's a great saying of yours, learn because you can, not because you have to. So that association led me to National Association of Appraisers. And that got even bigger. I was really blown away by the access that you have to different aspects of the business. You talk about the pie in the sky, and then you're there. You get to talk to the people that are making decisions in our world, regulators, even sometimes there's some software providers, which also opens your opportunity to what might be out there you're not utilizing yet. But it really makes you feel a little more vested, right? Like, I'm part of this. I'm part of this profession. I'm not just sitting on my own doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can with input from hundreds. So
Yeah,
I love that.
And so I have been to some ATA events, and the Association of Texas Appraisers is one of the strongest statewide organizations in the country. And I'm really excited about the ACTS conference coming up this spring. The NAA is going to be hosting that, but the ATA is going to do their conference in conjunction with that. So I'm really excited about, there's going to be a lot of appraisers in Texas at the ACTS conference this year, just because of the ATA being there, not including all of the appraisers are going to come from around the country. So I'm really excited about that. Kathy, I will say being involved in the NAA for me has been one of the most amazing experiences, because like you said, you get to interact with people from around the country. You get to hear directly from the source for regulatory issues. If Fannie Mae has a new edict, the NAA is going to get it in front of their panelists immediately. Appraisers get to be updated on what's going on at FHFA, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, all of the things that actually impact what we do. The NAA provides a place for them to talk about those changes, and they also place it into context for boots on the ground appraisers like you and me. So if you're an appraiser out there and you're not a member of your state coalition or the National Association of Appraisers, Kathy, would you encourage someone to join an organization?
Absolutely. And I think that when they are making decisions that affect how we do what we do, it's most helpful for them to hear from us and how that affects how we do what we do. There are sometimes best intentions, but if those making decisions don't see what we see every day, then their decisions might not be the best. Again, the more opinions we have, right? And then learning from other appraisers around the country, it's interesting that a solution that we believe would be effective wouldn't be effective across the country. So we need to accept that there are more things to consider than just us and what affects us. In Texas, we're a non-disclosure state, so what affects us affects others very differently.
Yeah, no doubt. And then last thing, before we go to our next break, Kathy, you and I have touched on this a couple of times, but the ability, most of us appraisers work by ourselves. We work in a small office. We sit in the office, we think about a thing, we agree with ourselves. It can be incredibly useful to be able to call a peer, someone that does this work, and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about doing it this way. What do you think? And then you get some feedback. You're like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong on that. Maybe I ought to consider it this way. Just the ability to ask a friend is incredibly helpful.
I agree. And when we've had the same experiences together in conference, we know who to reach out to. We know who might understand because of the similarities or the differences or something I hadn't encountered yet. We learn all that we can technically, but if you haven't applied that technology to a certain problem, it's hard to always come up with the best answer. So yes, you get all those conversations with all those people from around the country, and then you kind of know who might understand your struggle and that you can bounce it off of, because it just makes us better.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's do this. Let's take a real quick break and hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Are you ready to take your career in real estate appraisal to the next level? Join the Appraisal Institute, your go-to source for expert insights, industry trends, and the latest updates from the world of valuation. Whether you're an experienced appraiser or just starting out, they bring you industry resources, classes, and all the knowledge you need to stay ahead. Join today and be part of a community that's shaping the future of the appraisal profession. Visit appraisalinstitute.org to learn more and become a member.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I'm joined today by Kathy Harper, Appraiser of the Year, according to the Buzzy Awards. Kathy, thank you for being here. Let me ask you real quick. How do you see 2025 working out for appraisers? What changes do you think appraisers are going to have to overcome this year?
There are a lot of things speculated, right? There are so many. So the good and bad thing of social media is we hear a lot of things. Are they all going to come to fruition or not? Are they being over amplified by some or not? We don't know. I do believe in something that I've been working on pretty heavily, the difference that has been made with the settlement with NAR and what data is available to us is probably one of the most challenging situations we have in mortgage work. That data is not easily available to us anymore. So I've been working with real estate agents and brokers across the country, asking them to please understand that we do need this information. We don't know if it's going to affect the opinion of value, but we certainly can't make that decision without knowing it. Many appraisers are members of NAR as well, which which gives us the title of realtor.
Yeah.
In saying that, because we're realtors, we're members of NAR, and we're bound by the same code of ethics, which means we will keep the information confidential that should be confidential. I think that many of us have had agents that were concerned sharing information with us because it's their fiduciary responsibility to their clients, and their confidentiality is for a lifetime, just as ours is with our clients. So that's one of the big things that I've been working on, is trying to work with agents for data and for them overall to understand the process. So that's, I think, the known issue that we have to deal with this upcoming year. And it has already begun. Contracts have changed, listing agreements have changed, all that stuff. So we do have the further concern about the GSEs, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and whatnot, and how they are going to utilize us or not. So that's a concern for many that have done mortgage work, which is the majority of us have depended on mortgage work for our careers. So that's the biggest thing. So you just get better at what you do, so that you're the one they come to.
Absolutely. And, I think the NAR contract business, there's a couple things that I would like to say about that. Number one, in Texas, you guys have a superpower, and that is verifying sales. In Tennessee, it's a disclosure state. We have the number on the deed. It's recorded, right? In Texas, you don't have that. So you got to pick up the phone and call and talk to realtors to understand what happened in a transaction. I think across the country with the NAR settlement, it might encourage more appraisers to actually pick up the phone and call agents and ask them questions about the transaction so they can identify those small pieces. But I think that also leads to a better verification of the sale. And, Kathy, I think you're going to have the same experience. When you take the time to reach out and talk to a realtor, when you talk to an agent, offer to share information back with them when you can. Offer to help them out and build those relationships. I've got so many agent friends here in Middle Tennessee that I depend on for information, and they also come to me for information. So this notion that, appraisers are bad and agents are bad and they're always at loggerheads, that's not the case. We're all trying to help the process work along.
We don't want that to be the case, right? That's another. I've become an educator in Texas, and so my passion is to educate agents on our process. And I do get a lot of phone calls, and there are a lot of glazed over eyes when we tell them things and what we do and why we do it. And that helps them get better at what they do as well. But yes, we don't need to be the enemy. Somewhere in there, it said we can't talk to the appraiser, right? And the appraiser can't talk to the agent. And it's very, very frustrating because they're our best source of data. Absolutely. If you want to know what's going on in the market, ask them. Well, what else did your buyer look at? What were they considering? What was the most important aspect of this home, and they chose to purchase this one? So yes, I'm real passionate about that. I do serve on my local board and committees regarding MLS. They call me the MLS Nazi because I'm quite adamant about it being accurate data. That's my analyst thing. They just look at me and go, "Yeah, she's the nerd." So, but forming those relationships has been so beneficial, in not just to what I do, but what all of us do. And that brings the whole profession up, the whole process. So I strongly encourage relationships to form. And there is the little nuance. We are not allowed to talk about value. Well, we keep our integrity, regardless of where we are in the world, who we're talking to, what we're doing. It is our choice to keep our integrity and to not talk about those things that we are not allowed to. And we just simply have to say, I am not allowed to share that with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just a simple answer, but we can talk about the process and how, what matters and what rules, like the guidelines. They don't understand the guidelines. Some think there's a certain time frame we can go back or a certain mileage we can go out, and they just don't know. I did recently get my sales license so I could go through the education process to become an agent. And that taught me a lot. That taught me how much they aren't taught. And I'm sure they could do the same thing with us. So working together is going to be beneficial for everyone. That's been my goal lately.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, hey, so Kathy, just, again, between you, me, and the fence post, Jim Morrison likes to throw these anonymous appraiser questions at us. He does it pretty much every episode. And I think he has one for us today. Jim, are you going to try and trip us up today?
Well, I mean, it just goes to show how many questions there are out there. If anybody has any questions for our experts, reach out at comments@appraisalbuzz.com or put it on the YouTube comments. So this one says, I'm working on an appraisal where the borrower is buying 12 properties total, and I'm only appraising one of the 12. The contract price is the bulk price for all 12. Within the contract, they broke down the price for each, just divided evenly from the bulk price. I'm having trouble figuring out how to handle this for the contract section of the appraisal.
Kathy, any thoughts on that?
Well, this is a good question. It brings to light that we are not appraising to the contract. We are reporting what the contract says, and we are telling the lender, this is what the contract says. And these are the nuances of the contract. It is because this contract is a bulk sale. Our opinion of value for the one property is separate. We don't meet that number. That's not our goal. So report the contract as it is. Determine what that one property would sell alone. That's what they wanted to know. So opine value on the one. It's a lot, right? The one lot. Just opine value on that one lot. And tell them this is under contract for this much money, and it's very independent of what our opinion of value is.
Absolutely, and I like the way you pointed out that the contract is the contract. We don't appraise to the contract ever. Our job is to appraise the property 99 times out of 100. Our job as residential appraisers is to appraise a property for market value for mortgage lending purposes. And that it may be the contract. It may not be the contract. In this case, I'm reminded, my father passed away last Thanksgiving, just before Thanksgiving. And he used to say regarding bulk sales, he's like, okay, Hal, think about it like this. If you go to the store and you buy a Snicker bar by itself, it's $1. But if you buy a case of Snicker bars, it's, 50 cents for each one of those Snicker bars. If you buy in bulk, a lot of times you're going to get a discount. So in this instance, if you're buying 12 properties, it would be reasonable to make the assumption that there would be a discount associated for the bulk purchase. Now, I would say that's a reasonable assumption. But test it with market data. Maybe it is the market value of the single piece of property. But my gut says there's probably a discount for buying 12 properties. But at the end of the day, our job is to go out and analyze the market and see what this one piece of property is worth. So that's what I would say do here. Go find out what this property is worth. Now, in reporting the contract section of the appraisal, where you're reporting what happened to the contract, if your value is higher than the allocated sales price for the subject property, don't freak out.
Right.
Just explain, hey, I did my analysis. The property is worth, let's say for the sake of argument, the lot is worth $30,000 based on market analysis. The sale allocates $20,000 per lot for the bulk sale. That's an easy thing to articulate. You can say, hey, they got a discount. They bought 12 properties. The subject is one of the 12. They paid $20,000 per, but it's worth this much on its own. And I think that's a fair thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. Our guts agree on this one. I would assume in buying in the bulk that they will get a discount typically, right? But the lender wants to know what one would cost, and not every buyer can buy all of them. And they want to know what a buyer would typically pay for one. Yep. So yeah, our guts agree on that. But yes, explain why your opinion value may be higher than if you multiplied it by 12. But that's part of the analysis.
It comes down to this. say what you did, say why you did what you did, and explain what it means. And you do that, and you're going to be fine.
Just tell the story.
Tell the story. Kathy, I cannot thank you enough for being on today. I can't express how happy I am that you are the first appraiser of the year from the Buzzy Awards. I'm blown away and so excited for you. And again, thank you for being here.
Well, I'm pretty blown away too, Hal, but I'm really proud of it because it means my peers thought highly of me. And so that's just very, very flattering. I don't know that we can match that with much else.
I love it. Jim Morrison, do we have anything else we need to cover today?
No, I just want to thank you again, Kathy, and we are excited. You had so many votes. Your category had more votes than all the others, and we really, people came out to support you, and we really appreciate that, and we want to commend you for that.
Thank you. It's really quite overwhelming. Pretty flattered on all this.
We're looking forward to handing you the award in person at Valuation Expo, August 11th through the 13th in Las Vegas. So we're looking forward to that. But thank you so much.
For Jim Morrison and Kathy Harper, this is your Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. Have a great week.